Okay, peeps. So let's talk about something that probably has gotten me in trouble most of my life. It's my tone. I'm cutting right to the chase today. It's difficult for me to talk about this one because I automatically want to get on the defense when somebody says something to me, right? Like if somebody says I am picking a fight with them because of what I say. I hop on there and I'm like, no, I'm not. And I'm just voicing my opinion and blah, blah, blah. While that's true, I usually don't pick fights with people. I've never had a physical fight. Lots of verbal fights. I freely admit that one. But when I'm voicing my opinion about something, it's me voicing my opinion. But it's in how I'm delivering my opinion that I'm realizing that that's what is prompting people to say those things. Now, I am not rolling over and exposing my belly and being vulnerable and just letting everybody else win. That's not what I'm advocating for here. But because I'm an English teacher, we talk about tone and mood, of course, but we talk about tone when it comes to authors. And it's the author's attitude about the topic in which he or she is writing. I mean, that's like the watered down version of what a tone means in literature or in writing. So when you apply that to your tone as a human being, when you use a snarky tone in your voice or a sarcastic tone or a loving tone or whatever the case may be, consciously or unconsciously, subconsciously, whatever one it's supposed to be, whether you're choosing to do it or not choosing to do it, how about that? It implies a certain emotion or implies a certain attitude about said situation. So let me give you an example. Friend comes up to you, having coffee, chit-chatting, right? And your friend goes, hey, what do you think of my new hairstyle? What do you think? And if you like it, you can say, oh, that looks great. It's wonderful. And by the way you say it, your friend is going to receive that as, hey, this person is complimenting me. He or she likes it. It's wonderful. Same situation. If you go, wow, that looks wonderful. Oh, you switched it up there. You changed the tone, right? You changed the implied impact, the implied attitude that you have about said haircut, hairstyle, whatever. First situation, friend seems genuinely happy, thinks it looks great for you. Go you. Second one, that friend is probably really thinking, what the hell did she do with her hair? But wanting to maybe not be hurtful to the friend, right? So you kind of play it off and, like, looks great. But the person on the other end might say, is she meaning that to sound that way? Is she not meaning it to sound that way? So we have to really be cognizant of our tone when we're speaking. I have failed in that department. I'm 45. Let's give myself a few years of grace. I have failed in that department since I was probably 5. So 40 years. 40 years I've been failing as a human in that department. That's a pretty stark realization. And because of that, I have ruined relationships with people that I love. I have maybe not gotten an opportunity to do something, like in an interview or something. I have come across as too harsh or too, I can't think of the word that they used. Assertive, that was the word, when I wasn't meaning to. And ultimately, as much as I feel horrible about hurting those people in those situations because my tone has come across in a way that I was not necessarily implying in that moment, I'm really upset that I've hurt myself the most. And I know that sounds selfish, and that's okay. I acknowledge my selfishness in this. But when I stop and think about it, I hear my voice every day, 365 days a year. I've heard my voice my whole life. And that inner dialogue, oh, you're not pretty enough, you're too fat, you're not smart enough, no one's going to like you, all of that internal dialogue that I've had in my head for 30 years, I'm giving myself 10 years of grace, 15 years of grace. That shit has hurt me and has impacted me. And it's the tone in which I've been talking to myself that's done the worst damage. Yes, I've had to repair some relationships, and I'm trying to repair other relationships because of that. I'm acknowledging those things. And that's the other part of this. My mom, when I was a kid, she'd always go, Amanda, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that's my mom impersonation. My mom doesn't sound like that at all. She's a wonderful woman. But in my head, that's what it would sound like, right? And I would say, but Mom, you know what I mean. And her response was, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. And she's right. 100% right. It's not necessarily what I'm saying, it's how I'm saying it. And I still can be short-circuited. I don't know if that's really the term I'm looking for. I can have a short fuse, and I can be quick to say something and I can cut people at the knees sometimes with what I say. And there are lots of times that I choose not to. But there are times that I am not choosing to be mean, spiteful, condescending, any of those things, and it comes out that way. So one of the things I'm learning on this journey is that I need to really be aware of how I say things. I'm still going to say what I want to say because that's who I am. I don't believe in sugarcoating things for anybody's feelings. You can ask my daughter about that. But I need to be better at how I say things. And if not for the people on the other end of the conversation, at least for me, because I have to be in my skin the rest of my life. And I need to be better for me. And I need to be nicer to me. And by practicing that inner/self dialogue in a more loving tone, I'm hoping that carries over into my real life situation. That's probably why when I get really pissed off at people, I tend to revert to the snippy tone, right? Because I'm aggravated and frustrated, and that's where the biting remarks come in. And instead of doing that, I need to take a moment, do some deep breathing, and be mindful and understand that whatever that person is saying to me is maybe not necessarily directed at me, Amanda, but maybe me in the situation of what's happening, of what that person went through. And I might just be the receiving end of that person's tone, implied attitude, what have you. And maybe they're not necessarily meaning it to come across that way as well. As human beings, we really suck at communication most of the time. One of the things I'm learning here is that there's a lot of nonverbals used with my students, meaning they don't say yes or no to me. They do facial expressions to let me know yes or no. I mean, they do talk. That's not what I'm saying. But when they get really comfortable, I guess, when they get really comfortable with you or they accept you, I'm not really sure, because it's just started to happen after, my first probably 2 months of school, it happened, where they'll give me the raised eyebrow for yes and the furrowed eyebrows for no. And my students weren't doing that to me prior. They would say yes or no, or they just shrug their shoulders, whatever. And initially, I was taking that as an offense, right? But it's not an offense. It's the culture's way, the native culture's way of communicating. And human beings, we suck at communication. We don't know how to talk to one another anymore without either overanalyzing what we're trying to say so we don't come off as an ass, or we come off as an ass and then we're trying to figure out how to save face on that. And I think part of the problem is because we don't take the time to listen. And I'm at fault for that as well, because when I'm listening to somebody, let me strike that. When I'm having a conversation with somebody and I hear what they're saying, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to react? How am I going to reply? What am I going to say? I can't wait for this person to stop talking so I could say something. No. For us to be better communicators, we need to be listening with the intent of just listening. And then when that person is done, we take a moment to process, and then we can reply. We shouldn't be trying to figure out our reply while that person is talking. So that kind of goes back to that idea of what they taught me in college when I was going to school to be a teacher. You have to learn your wait time with your students. You pose a question. And as a type A person who's lived on the East Coast most of her life, I want rapid, boom, boom, boom. We got to get this, right? Who says we have to get it that way? I'm learning that my wait time here with my students, because hashtag Alaskans do it differently, it takes longer for the answer to come. And it's not because they don't know. It's because they're really genuinely thinking about what I said. And then the kids are replying, which is really neat to watch, because of course they still give me the, I don't know, quick response. And then I say, I'm pretty sure you do know this. So why don't you think about it for a minute and then we'll come back. And instead of it being 3 seconds, because that's what most teachers mean when they say a minute, right? I literally give them that minute to process. And I'm not going to say every single time a kid comes up with a better answer than I don't know, because that's the cop-out. Kids like to do that. I like to do that sometimes. But a lot of the time, they'll come back with a better, stronger answer, because they've really processed what I've said, what we've been doing in class, what we've been thinking and discussing and all those things, and then they verbalize it. Why can't we do that as adults? Or why can't we as humans just do that? Why can't we take the time to truly listen to what others are saying and then reply? So I've been trying to do that with my family once every couple of weeks. And I love these calls, but once every couple of weeks, we have a Zoom session. Shout out to Zoom. Thank you for allowing us to have those. where my sister who's in Indiana Zooms in, my parents in Western New York, and then my daughter wherever she happens to be at the moment, usually at home. Sometimes she's driving in a car. She's done that before. She's not driving. Someone else was driving and she was the passenger. But regardless, we all come together and we have a Zoom session. And I love my sister because she is very orderly and she usually has an agenda for us to discuss important things that we all need to talk about. And each of us has, an allocated time so everybody gets to hear what everybody is saying. So in a way, we've already established the norms of our conversation. But then we've also, as people are talking, I'm really focusing on them because the rule that we implemented is that we can't be multitasking during our family conversations. And I think that's part of our problem as humans. Or at least us East Coast people. We always have to be doing multiple things at one time. Why the hell do we have to do that? Why can't we just not sit and have a cup of coffee or tea or whatever your heart makes, whatever makes your heart happy, and just sit and chit chat and really, really listen to what the other people are saying. Take a minute to process, 30 seconds, whatever it takes you to process, and then counter with what you want to say. Now, if you're like me and sometimes you forget and you want to interrupt, not on purpose, but because you're excited about saying something, it still happens, but we need to be better at doing that, because by interrupting the people, then we're telling them that their story, their opinions, their view, whatever you want to say, we're telling them, not intentionally, but we're still telling them that it's not as important as what we have to say. And I'm pretty sure this is not the case with most of us. I'm pretty sure we're not just a bunch of idiots who don't care about other people's feelings. I'd like to think that the world is full of better people, and I'm pretty sure we are. But a lot of us are guilty of interrupting the other person because we're so excited about what we want to say, and then we're completely dismissing that person. And that's not cool. Not cool at all. So I started this TED Talk, as the kids like to say, / YouTube video about tone. And one of the things that I want to work on for the school year that I'm here, and maybe the school year next year that I'm here, who knows what I'm going to do. But I want to work on the importance of me and my tone and how I interact with people in my life. That starts from my students all the way up to my daughter and everybody in between. And I hope you stick around for me to maybe improve upon my tone and not sound so snarky or bitchy or whatever most of the time. And hopefully, as I continue to implement this in my everyday conversations with my students, with other faculty here, with my friends and family in New York and across the United States, when I can actually talk to people, because the phone service here is less than stellar. I hope that you can see a change in that. And I also hope that by doing so, it makes the inner dialogue better for me. It's got to. It just has to. Because acting on it outwardly has got to impact it inwardly. I would think. I don't know. It's just some random thoughts. All right, peeps. Have a wonderful day. Go out there and do something that you enjoy. But always remember to take a moment to breathe.